Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Hello if you're new, it's really good to have you. Today we are filming a video all about driving tests, driving lesson experiences, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't actually my idea. So somebody actually commented on my YouTube and said, have you ever thought about filming a video on your driving test and driving lesson experience kind of thing? So yeah, I can't actually remember who it was and I can't find the comment, so whoever it was, thank you for the idea, I really appreciate it. I'm just going to kind of chat through with you how I started my lessons, when I started my lessons, and go from there basically. So I started my driving lessons in July of 2017 and I'm trying to figure out how old I was. But I'm rubbish with stuff like this, so it's coming up July 2017. Coming up 4 years ago that I started my lessons, and I'm coming up to 25. So I was like, what, 20, 21 when I started my lessons. So there'll be people sitting there being like, it's so easy to work out, how are you struggling with this? But I just am, so let's just leave it. 2021 was when I started my driving lessons. I kind of decided as a spur of the moment thing. I always, like when I was younger, I always said I didn't want to drive because I was convinced that that's how I'd die, which sounds so morbid and so weird, but I just had this weird thing thinking that like if I was like driving, like I would like just crash my car because I'm so like clumsy. But eventually I decided, you know what, I actually do want to drive. So I decided to start lessons. This was back in like the height of my like anxiety, yeah, like my anxiety and like my depression and stuff like that. So it was very important to me to have a really understanding and really calm instructor, and I was actually so lucky that the first instructor I went with worked so well for me. I know that it does not happen for a lot of people. A lot of people have to change instructors, but for me, I just clicked with mine straight away. I started with Roadcraft Driver Coaching, which is a company here in Perth, but I'm pretty certain that at the time it was just one guy who owns Roadcraft, he's called Nick Watson. He is the nicest guy in the whole world, and I'm pretty certain that it was just him, but he now has other staff working in his company, which is just amazing to have seen him grow like that from what he was doing, which was just himself as far as I can remember. But yeah, I started with Nick Watson at Roadcraft Driver Coaching, and he was just absolutely fantastic. He put me at ease straight away, and he was just is just a really lovely person. He's really calm, he's really soft spoken, there's no panic, there's nothing. Like he's just a very good, he's everything you would want in an instructor essentially. I started with him, and quite a lot of people, when I was asking for questions and stuff, they asked like, how is the first like meeting, like what do you do, everything like that, because that's something that people get really nervous about, excuse me, sorry. And I was the exact same. Like I thought, oh my days, going off with a strange man in a car for like for 2 hours is just terrifying. Like I just didn't want to do it, but I did it, and I'm really glad that I did it. So what happened was I actually messaged Nick on Facebook asking if he had any lessons, and I can't find the messages now because I'm pretty sure it was another Facebook account or something that I had, but I still have my email from like arranging the first lesson, and I was just waiting to show you it there, but it's on you, it's on that phone. But basically, from what I can remember, he basically asked me to bring any glasses that I need to wear because I'm short-sighted. He asked me to bring my glasses, asked me to bring my provisional driving licence, yeah, just stuff like that. And then he would pick me up at my house. Obviously I had to give him my address, we arranged the time, everything like that, and that was our first lesson. So what we did was he came and he picked me up, and he texted me and told me that he was outside, and I went out to the car, which I remember standing at my front door with my dad and be like, I don't want to do it, 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 and like standing there at the door, like so terrified about going over to this guy's car and just getting in. Like, even though it said roadcraft driver coach on the side of the car, I was adamant that I was just going to get into somebody's random car and have to get back out, and then my instructor would laugh at me, and it was ridiculous. It really was. But I went out the house and I got into the car, and he introduced himself to me and we had a chat for a bit, and we basically realised that my glasses were okay, but they weren't strong enough, because you need to be able to read, I think it's a number plate from a certain distance before you're allowed to drive, because they need to know that you can actually like see the road and see what you're doing, kind of thing. I could read it, but it was a struggle. Like, I had to, you know, like squint even with my glasses on. So we realised that I could drive, but I need stronger glasses for sure. So I booked an appointment to go to the opticians, not even, I think it was the same day that I booked it. But for my first lesson, Nick took me up to somewhere called Oak Bank, which is a like housing, I don't know whether you call it a housing estate here in Perth. It's not an estate, I don't think, but it's where like there's primary schools and there's like high schools and stuff like that. So it's quite a calm area rather than like going through town or whatever. He took me up there, and the only driving I did was down the road, and it wasn't even, it must have been like, I don't even know, like 20 meters. Like, that was the only driving I did. We talked about, because I'd been in cars obviously, but like I'd never sat behind the wheel of a car before. I had no idea what a clutch was. I had no idea what pedals were what, everything like that. So he kind of just talked through everything with me. He talked through where my window wipers are in his car and all the stuff that you need to know before you drive, basically. And then obviously got me to drive down the road the shortest distance imaginable, and I'm telling you, I was going at about 3 miles an hour, but I felt like I was going about 50 miles an hour. Like, I was terrified. But yeah, that was my kind of first lesson, and we just went from there. So a lot of these questions are related to my driving test, so I'm gonna kind of go through them and see if I can kind of do things in order. So I did my lessons for a year and 2 months. I took a long time doing my lessons, which was fine because it helped me to drive better and everything like that. But I obviously, like I said, took a year and 2 months of actual lessons. I also went out in a hire car with my dad quite often. So yeah, I did a lot of lessons, a lot. But I wouldn't change that, because I think that's how I learn and how I learn better. Whereas some people will go and do an intensive course and they'll pass within a week. Some people will take longer than I did. Some people will go and do lessons and be finished their lessons in a few months. But that was not what was going to work for me. I needed a long time to do it, and I'm not like embarrassed about it at all. Do you have any funny stories of your driving test or your driving lessons? Yes, so there's two that spring to mind. None of my tests, because my test wasn't funny. My test was actually, we'll get there in a second, but nothing like, no like banter or anything from my test. It was more my lessons. There, one that I can laugh about now but was not funny at the time, and one that was just so embarrassing that I just wanted to crawl up and die, which was, I was driving with my instructor sitting right next to me in the car, and I went to go and change gears, missed the gear stick and punched him in the leg. Like, full on whacked him in the leg. And I was like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Like, I was so embarrassed. Like, I full on like touched his leg. Nick, I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry. That was so embarrassing. Don't know how I did it. I do not know how I did it, but I did. It was so embarrassing. Also, I used to get in trouble. When I say in trouble, like, Nick's not a nasty guy, like he wouldn't shout at you or anything like that, but I used to get told off because instead of watching the road, I used to look down to change gears, and Nick would be like, you're not even looking at the road, like you need to look where you're going. But no, I just used to look down and change gears with no observation of what was in front of me at all. So that was funny, but when I think back to it now, that was bad. And one time when me and my dad went out in a hire car from Arnold Clark, we were like, it's hard to explain, but we were at a junction and it was slightly uphill, and I used to really struggle with like clutch control and stuff like that, and I put far too much gas on instead of just, you know, kind of evening it out. I just whacked my foot on the gas because I was too scared that I was going to stall, and lost control of the car completely and ended up on a pavement. So I was going that way and I put far too much gas on and sped out the junction, lost control, ended up on the pavement and then back onto the road. And thank God my dad is a very patient and very kind man. He didn't shout at me, he didn't freak out, he didn't do anything. He just was like, right, okay, love, it's okay, calm down, everything's fine, everything's fine. But so bad. Like, it was by the grace of God that there was nobody on the pavement, or we would not be chatting. I would be in HMP Perth. Oh, there was another one there that I was going to tell you and now I can't remember what it was. Oh yeah, there was one time I was at a crossroads and there were like cars and cars and cars behind me, and I was with my dad and I could not stop stalling. I stalled about 20 times trying to cross this, and I eventually I had to get dad to get out. Oh, I'm so embarrassed, I can't even. I had to get out the car in front of this line of cars behind me and walk around and get in the passenger side, and my dad had to go in, and oh, it was so embarrassing. So yeah, see if you can relate to any of that, don't worry about it because I've been there, I really have. Did you have a car before or after you passed your test? I had one before. So I bought my car in May, and then I passed in October. Not October, sorry, September. June, July, August. Yeah, so I bought my car 4 months before I passed my test, which really, really helped because obviously I was just used to driving my instructor's car, which was a Ford Fiesta, and my car is a Vauxhall Corsa. So if I hadn't have got my car earlier, I think I would have really, really struggled getting to grips with my car, which I did. I did when I obviously drove it before I passed. I had my mum and dad in the car with me because you're not allowed to obviously drive it before you pass on your own. And I found it was hard to get to grips with. It really was, but I'm so grateful that I got my car before I passed, because then as soon as I passed I was able to feel confident driving by myself in my car. So yeah, got it before, always would recommend if you can getting one a couple of months before you pass your test. For your driving test, did you use anything to calm your nerves? So I remember asking Nick, like, is there anything that I can do to like calm myself down or whatever, and he actually told me that there is a myth or whatever about eating a banana before your test, and I hate bananas with a burning passion. I hate the texture, I hate the taste, I hate everything about them. And he said that it's something to do with potassium or something like that, or maybe I read that or something, I don't know, but he said eat a banana. So I tried to, but I was so nervous the morning of my test, like not panicky nervous, but like, you know, when you just, you know, you've got something to do and you don't want to do it kind of thing. That was how I felt. So trying to force a banana down first thing in the morning was sickening. It was horrific. I remember it. Ugh, rank. I also used Rescue Remedy spray. I actually used that anyway. I find it really helps when like I suffer with panic attacks and stuff. Not nearly as often as I used to, thank God, but that is something that really, really helped me when I had something like scary to do. So I took Rescue Remedy spray as well. Was your examiner and instructor nice? I've heard they're really scary. So my instructor, like I have said, was the best person ever. I will recommend him until I'm blue in the face. My examiner was also an absolutely lovely person. I think it all depends on who you get and how you're feeling yourself, but I had a woman, I can't remember her name, but she was the nicest person. She was so kind, and I'll speak about her a little bit more when I actually get to talking about my driving test, but I'm so lucky that I had her. Who passed their test first, you or Joe? Me, so I passed my test first, but Joe is the better driver, and I will put my hands up and I will say that he is the better driver, 100%. How long did it take you to get your lessons and pass your driving test? So lessons, as far as I'm aware, I got them really quickly. I'm sure I did anyway. I don't think I was waiting for long for Nick. And how long did it take you to pass your driving test? I don't know whether that means how long did I do lessons for, or how many times did I do my test for, but also I've explained that I did my lessons for a year and 2 months and I passed my test first time. How did you feel when you first started driving lessons? Petrified. Absolutely petrified. And I have a really negative trait where if I can't do something straight away, it pisses me off. Like, it really winds me up. Like, I like to get in and be able to do something straight away, which isn't real life. Like, it doesn't work like that unless you're Joe, because he's just good at everything all the time. It's really annoying. But no, I have a really negative trait where if I can't do something straight away, it winds me up. So there was a lot of tears and a lot of I'm never gonna manage to do this and all this crap. But no, terrified. But the little things where you actually master something when you're driving, it's so good. It's the best feeling ever when you're doing your lessons and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, I just did that without him having to tell me what to do. Like, that's class. Is there any one thing that you really struggled with during your lessons? Roundabouts. Roundabouts. Roundabouts and changing gears. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. Roundabouts petrified me, especially the big ones. The mini ones I could deal with, but the big ones terrified me. I'm not going to say who sent in this next question, but I am going to read it out. I was just going to ignore it because I don't want to give them the time of day, but no, I am gonna read it out and I am gonna answer it because I think it's important. Don't you have anxiety? You clearly don't if you pass first time, lol. Okay, yes I do have anxiety, and yes I did pass my test first time, and if I'm honest, I had, like, part of me felt like, yes, you can do this, you can pass your test, but the other part of me felt like there is no way you're passing this first time. There's not. If you knew me back then, and I'm honestly sure that obviously my friends are so great and they knew that I could do it, but if you knew of me, then you would definitely have thought there's no way she's passing that test first time. Not because I was a terrible driver, but just because I struggled so much mentally. Having anxiety does not stop you from being able to do things, okay? And I'm not sitting here and listening to you saying, well, you've got anxiety, so you clearly don't have anxiety if you've passed first time, because that's a load of bull. You can have anxiety and do good things. Let's just leave that there. How many faults did you get on your driving test? 2 minors, and that was it, thank God. How many times did it take you to pass? 1. This is from one of my best friends. I'd like to know how not to fail coming out of the test centre, getting 6 majors after 64 lessons. So I'm not going to say who that was in case she doesn't want me to, but she failed her driving test coming out of the test centre. She hadn't even gone anywhere. She just come out of the test centre and failed it. I know that you can do it. You will manage it. You were probably just too nervous. Try and stay calm is all I can say. No point getting yourself all worked up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to kind of talk about my driving test, and a lot of people wonder like what happens, etc. So you get given, I think I can't actually fully remember how. So obviously you have to pass your theory test first. I downloaded the DVLA apps to do that, and I didn't study at all. To be honest, I didn't have the motivation, which is daft because all I wanted to do was pass my test. Did not study at all. Absolutely stupid. But then a couple of nights before my theory test, I was just like, I'm going to have to do this. So I literally went through every single question. I'm not joking, there was about 734 or something. And I remember that number because it was a ridiculous amount. I laid in my bed and I went over and over and over and over for hours on end and somehow managed to pass my theory test. But my theory test was in, it was either Glasgow or Dundee, but I think it was Glasgow. No, it was Dundee, I think. And you had to go in and it was a little room. I can't actually remember how I booked my theory test. I can't remember how you do it. I think it's online somehow, and you have to pay for it. Yeah, you have to pay for it and stuff like that. So you do it online and you pay for it, and then you go and they're very strict. So you get called forward to the wee desk and you have to show them your form and everything that you've like completed, saying that you can do it because you've paid for it or something like that. I had to show them something. You have to show them your provisional license, and you have to show them like you have to like roll up your sleeves so they can see you've not got the answers written on you or anything. I'm pretty sure I had to take my earrings out. I'm sure I had to take my earrings out as well. And you have to show them your phone, everything, every single thing that you've got on you have to show it to them, and then they put it in a locker and you're not allowed it back until you're finished, which is totally fair enough. And then you go into a wee room and there's other people in with you, obviously not at the moment, I don't know how it works at the moment. I did my theory test years and years ago now. But you go into a wee booth that has things either side so that you cannot see anybody else, you're just facing the little screen that's in front of you, and you do your theory test that way. And then you get told like you have to be silent, and if you've finished, I think there's some way you have to like switch off the machine, or you have to click exit or something, and I didn't do it. I didn't listen to them properly. And I got up to leave, and the manny outside, because there's a big window that he can watch everyone, the manny outside like held up a piece of paper being like, sit back down until you've turned the machine off. Like, he gave me in trouble. And then you leave, and I think that's why you have to switch it off or exit or something, because then it feeds back whether you've passed or you've failed and the answers and stuff to the person sitting at the front desk. And then you go out and you collect your things, and then they hand you an envelope, and in that envelope is your certificate of passing or failing, and then you leave. And I didn't want to open it because I was so petrified. So my dad had actually taken me through to Dundee, Glasgow, I'm sure it was Dundee, and he was waiting for me in a cafe. So I made my way to the cafe and I sat down and I said to him, I was like, Dad, it's in here and I can't look at it. So we opened it together and it said, congratulations, you have passed the car theory test, which was, I was elated, I was so happy, and that just spurred me on to then go and pass my driving test. So did my theory test, passed my theory test, etc, etc. Actually, Nick was saying to me, like, you need to book your theory test because I want to put you in for your driving test, so please can you just book it? And I just kept putting it off. But the reason that I didn't do my driving test earlier was because I hadn't passed my theory test. So I then got booked in for my driving test. I'm sure that obviously you can't just go on and book it yourself. I'm pretty sure your instructor has to send you a link and a passcode to actually get into the website to book it. I'm pretty certain that's how it works. So we kind of arranged a day between us to work out, this is when I'm going to do it. And it was the 4th of September 2018, I think. Yeah, it would have been, because I started in 2017. Yeah, 4th of September 2018, and it was at 10 o'clock in the morning was my driving test. Woke up, ate that stupid banana, had my rescue remedy spray, and I'd booked an hour lesson before my test as well. So it was just to iron out any like little things like practice all your manoeuvres and stuff, because on your test you will get asked to do one manoeuvre. Practice all your manoeuvres, and also at one point Nick drove me to the test centre a wee bit earlier, and we pulled up the bonnet and we went over everything just in case they asked me, can you show me like how you fill up your wiper fluid, can you show me all this? So they go through that with you as well. And then we pulled up and we went into the test centre together, and I had chosen not to have Nick in the car. You can choose to have your instructor in the car when you're on your test, but I chose not to because I felt it would make me more nervous. He would have been fine, he would have just sat there quietly, but I wouldn't. It was just too much. Like, I just wanted me and one other person. I wish that I could do it without even another person in the car, but you can't. So I just wanted it to be me and the examiner. The examiner came out and called my name and said, oh, I'm looking for Abby Everett. And obviously they again check your provisional license, they check everything. And then Nick said, right, good luck. And I said, I don't want to do it. And I remember him just looking at me like, you're doing it. And I was like, I don't want to. But I managed to keep myself calm, and myself and the examiner went and sat in the car, and she basically just said, half of your test will be me asking you turn left, turn right, do this, do that, and the other half I will be quiet and you will be following a sat nav, which I already knew all this, but obviously they tell you that anyway. And she basically just said, if you see me writing on my little pad, doesn't mean that you're failing. Try not to pay any attention to me, which I didn't, because Nick had already told me that. He'd said, don't watch her because you'll just make yourself worse. So they obviously have a little clipboard and they have to tick things off and all that. And I'm getting nervous talking about it. And we basically pulled out, and I remember Nick had said something to me about the gates of the test centre, you were allowed to go over the line or something to be able to see it, and I said that to the examiner. I said, oh, I'm sure that Nick said I can do this, or I can't actually remember exactly what it was, and she said, I'm really sorry but I can't tell you, you have to work it out for yourself. I was like, oh no. So we just kind of went, and I was driving, and like she said, she instructed me where to go the first half of the test. I think my test, it was not long, I don't think. I think it was less than an hour for sure. I can't actually remember for sure what time like how long it took, but it was less than an hour. And in the test, she asked me, they will ask you, well actually I don't know anymore because this was a few years ago, but back then they asked you to pull up on the right, reverse 2 car lengths and drive off. And I'm pretty certain that that is the manoeuvre that she asked me to do. I don't think I had to park or anything, because obviously they do that anyway, but then that was my manoeuvre as well because it is a manoeuvre. And I'm certain that that is the only thing I had to do. I was so lucky that I didn't have to parallel park or anything like that. So she asked me to do that quite a few times. Obviously we did the sat nav, we did everything, and I remember at one point thinking I'd failed because I went to pull up on the left and then I just scuffed the pavement a little bit, and I was sure that I'd failed, but obviously I didn't. And we got back to the test centre, and we pulled in, parked up, and she asked me if I wanted Nick to come and sit in the car, and I just could not, like, I couldn't decide. I was sat there and I was like, oh no, I don't know, right, okay, no, just tell me, actually wait, no, and that went on for about 5 minutes, and I think eventually she was just kind of like, right, just stop. So then I said, no, can you just tell me? I could see Nick coming out, actually he was walking towards me, and I was so petrified because I was so scared that I was going to fail and let him down, but obviously I didn't. She turned to me and she said, well, I'm really happy to tell you that you've passed. And I burst into tears. I started bawling my eyes out, and she was really, really lovely. She basically said to me, she was like, you need to believe in yourself more. And I'll never forget what she said. She's like, you remind me of my daughter. If you can do this, there's nothing that you can't do. You need to believe in yourself because you can do things. I think like she picked that up from being with me for an hour, that I obviously had no confidence in myself. And her saying that, actually, whenever I struggle, even now, I still think about what she said. So that means a lot to me, what she said. It was really kind of her, and she was a really lovely person. She explained that my 2 minors were for scuffing the pavement, and I rolled back slightly on a junction, but that was it. Bawled my eyes out, and then she obviously signed my pass certificate and she gave it to me, and then she left, and that was it. Nick got into the car. What the instructors do is they drive you to your test and they drive you home from your test, just because obviously you've been really nervous, or you will be really happy, which is good, but you'll also be, I was still shaky, I was still crying when I was getting driven home and stuff, so God knows how bad it would have been if I'd been upset if I'd failed. But like, he drove me home, and then I had a wee present for him, and I went in and came to the front door and I banged on the door. My mum was actually on the phone and she answered the door. My dad was out with my granddad, so it was just my mum, and my mum was on the phone. She answered the door and I showed it to her, and she started screaming on the phone, and she just went, I'll call you back, and hung up. So I don't know what that person I can't even remember who was on the phone, but I don't know what they would have thought, because she just started screaming. And then I came in and I got Nick his gift, and he took a photo of me with my pass certificate by the car, and then he left. And to be honest, I found it actually quite sad because I'd really enjoyed having my lessons with him. You really get close with your instructor because you spend so much time together, and you are in dangerous situations together, because obviously he's with a learner, like on a big roundabout, you know, like it's not safe. But yeah, I actually found it quite sad. I actually still have him on Facebook. I spoke to him not that long ago, but obviously I don't do any lessons with him or anything now. He is a really great guy. He's really good with mental health. He actually posted something a while ago just saying for any pupils, like past and present, like I'm here if you need me, and stuff like that. Like, I think that is a big thing when you're picking an instructor. They need to be a people person, you know, they need to be supportive of not just your lessons but just in general as well. And that was it. And then my dad came home with my granddad, and I shouted to him from the car, from the door, sorry, from the door of the house, because he was getting out of the car, and I was like, look, and he was, oh, I was so happy. And then we immediately went onto the computer and sorted out my insurance so that I would be allowed to drive my car without them. And then the insurance came through fine, and within an hour I was out in my car, driving around, music blasting. It was a sunny day and I was just loving my life. Best thing ever. There was a quick question actually asking how much your lessons were. My lessons were, sorry. My lessons were £60 a week, which is pricey, but it's because I did 2 hours a week. So instead of a 1 hour slot, I did a 2 hour slot, which was really good because by the time I had woken up and was actually concentrating, it was at least 45 minutes into the lesson. So then I had another hour to actually do well. So would always recommend doing a 2 hour slot if you can. It's always a really good idea. But yeah, I think that's everything that I think I've covered everything. I hope that this has made some kind of sense and I haven't just babbled on. If you are looking to do your driving lessons, then please please give me a message if you want any advice or anything. It was the best thing that I've ever done. It's given me so much more freedom. I wouldn't have got the job that I'm in now if it wasn't for having a car and driving, because it's too far away for me to walk and the buses don't go there. So I'm way, like, so lucky, and it has opened so many doors for me, and it would for you as well. It's one of the best things I've ever done. Thank you for watching this video. If you have enjoyed this video, please give me a like, comment, share, etc, whatever takes your fancy. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you do want to join the wee fam that I'm creating over here on YouTube, give me a wee subscribe. We're a lovely bunch so far and we would love to have you. Take care, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye guys.